Thank you. I think we're ready to go now.
All right.
If you guys are.
Yeah. On the matter of state of Maximilian versus unfair family carnival appearances, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning. My name is Dylan Pettimores. I'm joined by my co-counsel here today.
Good morning, Your Honor. Josiah Jones on behalf of the plaintiff. We're joined by a third counsel today.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Julie Abbey on behalf of the plaintiff.
Good afternoon. Here's what happened. That's
Yes, good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Brooke Jones. I'm joined by my colleagues, Mr. Jacob Zertucci
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
good afternoon.
and Mr. William Johnson.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
Together, we represent the defendant, Lampert Family Carnival, and we'll be calling two witnesses to the stand, Mr. Nick Snacky
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
and Ms. Legacy Lampert.
Good afternoon as well, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. Are there any housekeeping matters you want to take care of before calling witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor, just one from the plaintiff. We would just ask what your preferences are as to moving about the well. So we ask permission before approaching the bench, the jury, and the witness, or just stay for the record.
Just for use of the well.
Yes, Your Honor, we're ready to go.
Just two brief things from the defense, Your Honor. First, we'd like to invoke Marauder Rules of Evidence 603 and 615, the constructive swearing in and sequestration of all witnesses, barring party representatives. And we'd like to note for the court that Ms. Lampert will be our party representative today.
All right, granted. Anything else?
One last thing, Your Honor, if you could turn to the complaint and answer, I believe you have the case in front of you. It should be right after the first few pages. I believe it's the fourth page, the complaint and answer, and then page 2 of that.
I'm on it.
Right at the bottom, we just like to put the court on notice that we'll be pursuing an affirmative defense today, that Mr. Maximilian assumed the risks of performing the bullet catch. And so we'll be taking on a burden to prove that, but of course that doesn't eliminate the plaintiff's burden.
Right, understood. Anything else?
No, Your Honor, with that, the defense is ready to proceed.
Your Honor, before we proceed, we'd just like to note for the record that Ms. Tab Thorne will be our party representative. She'll be at counsel table throughout trial.
All right, understood. Thank you very much. Anything else from either side?
Nothing from the defense.
Your Honor.
Let's proceed to plaintiff's case in chief. Or, I'm sorry, opening statements.
Yes, Your Honor.
Whenever you're ready, Joe.
May it please court. The defendant was careless. And it killed him. It's July 14th, 2023. And magician Maximilian the Great is getting ready for his last trick. Takes a deep breath. Lines up about 30 feet away from his assistant and stares down the barrel of a gun. He's not scared. He trusts that the company he's been working with has loaded blank bullets into that gun to make sure that it's safe. What he doesn't know is that just one night before, one of their employees was loading actual bullets into that gun. What he doesn't know is that they purchased real bullets along with those blank ones. What he doesn't know is that he's about to be shot at with live ammunition. That magician died that day. The defendant was careless. And it killed him. That's why we're here. That's why we're suing this defendant, Legacy Family Carnival, for recklessness. What that means is we're going to prove to you that it was their reckless decisions that caused Mr. Maximilian's death. We're going to do that by calling two witnesses to the stand. The first one you're going to hear from is a man named Utah Ewing. He used to work for the defendant's carnival. He's going to tell you about some crucial information that he saw while he was working. You're going to learn that he was a first eyewitness to their negligent action. He's going to tell you that their prop master, the person who was responsible for keeping that gun safe, well, that person failed to do their job. You're going to learn that he saw that prop master the night before this incident happened, drinking alcohol and loading bullets into that gun. He's gonna take this stand and testify today that that prop master was passing that gun from person to person to person at a party, letting them fire it willy-nilly at all different types of targets. You're gonna find out through Mr. Uden's testimony that the defendant was careless with the gun that killed Mr. Maximilian. Throughout this trial, part of your job is going to be to weigh the credibility of witnesses. And we expect Mr. Uden won't be the only eyewitness you hear from today. We expect you're going to hear from one from the defense. We're going to ask you to weigh their credibility against one another. And what you're going to find out about the defense's eyewitness, well, he still works for this defendant company, that he lies to people to make a living, and that he's got a financial stake in this case. We're going to ask that you weigh the credibility of those witnesses. Then we're going to call our second witness to the stand today. She's our party representative, Agent Tav Thorne. She works for the Midlands Bureau of Investigation. She's going to show you an important document in this case that lays out the price tag of the defendant's equipment that they could buy for Mr. Maximilian's equipment. She's going to show you how they chose the lowest possible price option for that equipment. But more importantly, she's going to talk with you about how they took care of that gun that killed Mr. Maximilian. You're going to hear that the defendant intentionally bought real, live ammunition alongside with those blank bullets. Through her testimony, you're going to learn that it's possible that they switched those bullets that should have been loaded into that gun. Members of the jury, throughout this case, it's going to become clear that this defendant company was careless. And that carelessness is what killed Mr. Maximilian. That's why at the end of this trial, we're going to ask that you find this company liable for recklessness. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, counsel. Any opening statements on behalf of the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
He knew the trick. He took the risk. July 14th was a tragedy. And nobody in this courtroom is going to deny that. Max's loss is not just a loss for everyone who knew him, but a loss for magic itself. But there's something wrong with their story. See, because Max, he was smart. He was one of the greatest magicians of his generation, flying around the world to perform. This was a trick he knew, a trick he had performed before. You see, because Mr. Maximilian, he knew what the bullet catch trick was. He knew it meant someone pointing a gun. He knew that it meant looking down the barrel of that gun. Mr. Maximilian knew it meant somebody pulling the trigger. He knew the trick. He took that risk. Mr. Jones has just come up here and told you that Lampert Family Carnival is responsible for Max's death. He told you that they owed Max a duty of care to keep Max safe. That's not something we're going to deny, because Lampert Family Carnival did owe Max safety. They had a duty. But Max had a duty too. He had a duty to himself. Today, we, the defense, have taken on a burden of the preponderance of the evidence, simply meaning more likely than not. And we're going to show you by that burden that Max knew how dangerous the bullet catch trick was. He knew how unreasonable that risk was, and he still did it. It's called the assumption of risk. But we're going to bring forth two witnesses to today that are going to explain that Max knew how dangerous this trick was. First, you'll hear from Mr. Nixnack, an employee at Lampert Family Carnival, who's gonna tell you that he had a conversation with Max. He's gonna tell you that he saw Max at a shooting range. And that at that shooting range, before Max had ever even thought about doing the bullet catch trick, he recognized the danger of mixing magic and guns. You're also going to hear from the owner of Lampert Family Carnival, Miss Legacy Lampert. She's going to tell you how she did everything in her power to keep Max safe, how she made prudent business decisions. She's going to tell you that, yes, a party happened and real ammunition was put into that gun. But despite what the plaintiff just told you, it wasn't just the prop master firing that gun. It was Max firing that gun as well. He knew the trick. He took the risk. So maybe you're asking yourself, if Max knew how dangerous this trick was, why are we here today? Well, you're going to hear from someone, Miss Tab Thorne, who's going to represent Max's estate. But she's not going to be representative because she's a descendant of Max. She's not going to represent Max's estate because she knew Max personally. She's going to represent his estate because she knew Miss Lampert, because she knew her from high school, because she's been after Miss Lampert for years. Max knew this trick. He took that risk. And that's why today we're asking you to find Lampert Family Carnival, not liar. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. That completes opening statements. Does the plaintiff wish to call a witness?
We do, Your Honor, but before so, may we just rearrange the courtroom?
That's already happened.
Go ahead. Call whatever you want.
Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes, go ahead.
The plaintiff calls Utah Uden to the stand.
Please take the stand.
Excuse me.
All purposes, we're calling witnesses, please lock that one.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Go ahead, make commence examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Could you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Of course. Hi, how you doing? I'm Utah Uden.
What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a circus performer. I've been doing tricks and stunts since I was born. Just yay high.
How did you get into the stunt business?
I actually tried to be a stunt double in Hollywood. But when I was on set, the directors, they kept telling me I couldn't speak. But I love speaking. So I went and joined the circus. Now I get my own lines and everything.
Well, then, could you tell us what kind of stunts you do as a stunt performer?
I'll do just about anything. I've been a human cannonball, locked in a cage full of snakes, but there's just one thing that's too dangerous for me. At Thanksgiving dinner with my in-laws. I will never make that mistake again.
All right, sir. How are you involved in today's case, then?
Oh, I worked at Lampert Con, and the day before that big bullet catch trick, I saw the prop master drinking and using a gun.
Objection, Your Honor, to improper character evidence by may be heard.
You may.
This witness just testified that the day before the bullet catch, he saw prop master drinking and using a gun. They're using this and eliciting this to show a character trait of recklessness, that because he acted like it on this occasion, that he would then act like that the next day.
Your Honor, if I may be heard.
You may respond.
If I may proffer, this witness is going to testify to that exact event, but we're not using it for a pertinent character trait. We're not using it to say that this event happened and that it happened again at the actual shooting. We're using it as to show that this particular incident was the actual reckless act that led to Mr. Maximilian's death, not as a conformity.
Court's going to sustain the objection. The testimony is not responsive to the question asked.
Yes, Your Honor. Motion to strike?
So stricken.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Could you repeat that one more time? How are you involved in today's case?
Yeah, I worked at Lamp Carnival. I'm here to tell you what I know and what I saw while I was working there.
Well then, what did you see?
I saw some preparation for the bullet catch trick.
This bullet catch trick. Could you explain to the members of the jury how it works?
Yeah, I'm real familiar with it. I've done it plenty of times. I haven't done it plenty of times, but I've seen it done plenty of times myself. I know how it works.
I want to see if you're able to paint a picture for how it works. Your Honor, permission for this witness to step down and demonstrate that trick?
Any objections?
No objections at this point, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
If I could use you just as a prop, I'm not going to do anything. Just stand right there if you could, Miss
Sure,
Adams.
sir.
Okay. So, in this trick, there were two performers. You got the magician, that's where you're going to be standing, and I'll be the assistant. The assistant would stand about halfway across the stage with a real gun in their hand. But instead of bullets, it'd be something called blanks in there.
Sorry, sir, could you explain to the members of the jury what blanks are?
Oh yeah, from what I know, they're like bullets, just without the punch. They make the same flash and noise, but they shouldn't be shooting anything out of it.
What does the assistant do with those blanks?
Well, they load them into the gun. They're supposed to point them near the magician and fire.
Does the magician do anything with these blanks?
Yes. While everyone's distracted with the gun, the flash, the show, the trick, the magician, they sneak a real bullet right into their mouth. Make it seem like they caught a bullet.
Thank you, sir. You can go ahead and retake your seat.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Now that we have a better understanding of how this trick works, what else did you see while at your time at the carnival?
I saw something that was concerning to me while I was at a hangout at the carnival.
If I may be heard, to an improper opinion.
Question was, what did you see? What did you hear? What's court doesn't see at this point, so it's overruled.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
What did you see at your time at the carnival?
I saw a concerning incident at a hangout at the carnival with the prop master.
When did this incident take place?
That was July 13th, 2023.
Sir, you just mentioned a prop master. Could you tell us who that is?
Yeah, I worked with them. Her name's Angel Ashman. They were in charge of the props and any firearms at the carnival.
How long have you worked with Mr. Ashmore?
4 years. I approached him with my props all the time and my ideas. I asked for a big flamethrower once. That got shot down pretty quickly.
All right, sir. So you mentioned that you saw this happen on July 13th. I want to focus on that day just a little bit more. Where were you?
Like I mentioned, we were at the carnival. This was a little after party, if you will.
Who was at this after party?
Lamp Carnival employees, you know, everyone else, but like normal employees, cleaners, people like myself, performers. But specifically, I saw the prop master, Angel Ashmore there.
What were the guests doing?
They were drinking beer, alcohol. Personally, even though I do stunts, alcohol is one risk I do not take. So I was drinking some water.
Did you happen to see Mr. Ashmore drinking that night?
Yeah, I did.
Objection, Your Honor. At this point, I'd re-raise my objection under Rule 404 that this is improper character evidence being used to show a trait of recklessness on the part of Mr. Ashmore. That because he acted this way on July 13th, that he would do so on July 14th.
Your Honor, if I may respond. It's not that at this time on July 13th, this incident happened and that this would likely happen again. It's a direct through line that we're trying to create here. It's that incident that happened on July 13th with that prop master, Angel Ashmore. That's the direct cause of that gun being able to be misfired on July 14th. It's not a propensity standard, and we're not trying to use one instance to confirm another. Brief response, Your Honor?
Last response. Yes.
Unless opposing counsel is contending that Mr. Ashmore was still actively drunk the next day, 24 hours later, this is being used to show propensity that because he acted recklessly and was drinking the night before, that he would be acting recklessly the next day. It's improper.
The question that was asked was something along the lines of what this witness see in terms of the drinking on that day for this particular Mr. Ashmore. The question was not asked if he has a reputation for drinking or anything along those lines, and the court is going to overrule the objection at this time.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Mr. Ashmore, my apologies, Mr. Uden, what was Mr. Ashmore doing?
Like many of the other employees, he was drinking. I saw him have about 3 beers.
Well, after you saw him have about 3 beers, did you see him do anything else?
Yeah, I did. After he finished, he got up and he told everyone he had just got a gun and we could all take turns shooting with it. And he went over to a lockbox nearby, opened it up, and pulled out a gun.
Sir, you just mentioned 2 things. Let's take those one at a time. Would you recognize them if I showed it to you?
Yeah, I think I could. A picture, the actual thing.
Your Honor, let the record reflect I'm approaching opposing counsel. Showing them exhibits 4 and 5. Your Honor, like a courtesy copy? Or do you have one?
Thank you very much.
Approaching the witness with the same.
You.
What are his hands, sir?
So this right here, this looks just like the gun I saw with Mr. Ashman. And this right here, this looks just like the lockbox. I saw him take the gun out.
Look to be fair and accurate as to what you saw.
Yes, ma'am, they do.
Your Honor, the plaintiff moves exhibits 4 and 5 into evidence.
Any objections?
No objections at this point.
They're moved into evidence.
Now, sir, you said you mentioned you saw a gun being taken out of that lockbox. What did you see Mr. Ashmore do next?
He made good on that promise. He took this gun out and gave everyone
Your Honor,
turns.
to the lack of foundation, if I may be heard.
Sure.
Specifically to the phrasing, this gun, that Mr. Ashmore took this gun out. I didn't object before when the witness said that this was a gun that looked like the one he saw, but for him to affirm that that actually is the gun that he saw, that goes a step too far. It's lacking foundation as to how he knows that.
Response?
Yes, Your Honor, we've laid that sufficient foundation. The witness has just testified that this is the gun that he saw, or it looks to be the gun that he saw on that day. And that's sufficient, that foundation has been laid.
Brief response, Your Honor?
Last one, yes.
We're fine with the witness saying that this looks like the gun they saw, but he can't affirm that it is the gun. We haven't heard any sort of expertise that he has in identifying guns, any sort of characteristics that this gun shared with the one he saw. There's just not enough foundation for him to come to that conclusion definitively.
Of course, it's gonna sustain the objection so long as there's a bit more foundation, but
Yes, Your Honor.
Motion to strike the testimony pending further foundation.
so stricken.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Sir, after you said that you saw a gun being taken out of a lockbox, what happened?
Well, Mr. Ashmore, he took out a gun that looked just like this. Then he gave turns with everyone, shooting at some empty beer bottles with this, what looked like this gun.
After you saw this, what looked to be this gun being shot by every person at that party, did you ever see Mr. Ashmore disassemble that gun?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Did you ever see Mr. Ashmore empty out its contents?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Sir, did you ever see Mr. Ashmore remove any bullets from the gun that you saw being fired off?
No, ma'am. I didn't see him do anything with the bullets after that gun was fired.
Well, then I want to talk about whether or not those bullets might have ended up in that bullet catch tray. Because that lockbox that you mentioned with the gun, did you ever see it again?
Yes, I did. I saw this box, what looked like it, the very next day, in the prop, backstage at the counter,
When was this, sir?
July 14th. That was the same day as that bullet catch trick. The same day that magician died.
Thank you, sir. Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time. Permission to publish copies of these exhibits to the jury.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
None. You may. And mine. Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Udine.
Afternoon, ma'am. Last name's a little hard, Udin, but it's okay. I get it
Udine,
all
I'm
the
so
time.
sorry.
It's
Good
okay.
afternoon, Mr. Udine.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, sir, I want to start by talking about why you're here today.
Okay,
You're here on a plea deal, aren't you?
that's right. That's what I've been told.
Yeah, because a little bit over a year ago, well, you made a mistake of your own, right?
I did, yeah.
You got into an illegal streetcar race.
Yeah, I made a big mistake. That's right.
Big mistake. You were charged and arrested for that.
I was, yeah.
You faced up to 10 years in prison.
That's what the lawyers were telling me. Yeah, that's right.
Sir, you can't imagine anything worse than 10 years in prison.
Thanksgiving with my in-laws is a close second, but you're right. Yes, ma'am.
But 10 years in prison, well, that's even worse than Thanksgiving with your in-laws.
Yeah, I don't want that.
But you figured out a way out of it.
You'd have to be more specific, miss.
Sir, you made a deal with the police.
Yeah, they told me I just needed to come in here and tell everyone what I know, tell the whole truth, and I'd be okay.
Well, I actually want to walk through exactly what the terms were because it sounds like you might be missing a few, sir.
Oh, okay, I'm not a lawyer, so please.
Because the state, well, they agreed to downgrade your charges and let you off on probation, right?
Yes, that sounds right.
So those 10 years of prison, the worst thing that you could imagine, even worse than Thanksgiving with your in-laws, well, that all goes away.
Yes, ma'am.
And instead, you just get off on probation.
I believe that's correct. Yes.
Now, your side of the deal is that you have to come in and testify against any cases that are brought against your former boss, the defendant.
That's right. For here, I have to come in, tell them what I know, what I saw.
Not just tell them what you know. You have to give them testimony that is useful for the plaintiff.
I believe so. First, I tell them everything I know, and they tell me whether or not they're going to bring me in court.
Right, but today, the plaintiff decides whether or not your testimony is useful.
I believe that's how it works. Yes, ma'am.
Well, let's walk through it because who decides what testimony is useful or not? Well, it's not you or me.
I don't think so. No, ma'am.
It's not the police.
I don't think so either. No,
It's not even the judge on this case.
that's not my understanding.
No, the person who decides whether or not your testimony is useful is sitting in this room.
Could you be specific?
Mr. Jones. He's the one who gets to decide whether or not your testimony is useful today.
I believe it's some plaintiff attorneys. That's correct, ma'am.
And he's your attorney.
That's my understanding, yes.
So he's sitting in here listening to your every word and deciding whether or not it's useful, whether or not you'll get those 10 years in prison.
I think so, ma'am. All I was told is I gotta come in here and tell them what I know.
Well, you were actually told that your testimony needed to be useful, yes or no?
It had to be useful and truthful. That's
And
right.
you're aware that the person who decides whether it's useful is your attorney.
I believe so, ma'am. It was complicated. That's my understanding.
That's your understanding, and you thought it was a pretty good deal.
I think so. Yes, ma'am.
You agreed to come in and testify.
Yes, ma'am.
And so now you're here testifying against the defendant,
That's correct.
telling us that, well, maybe it was her fault that Mr. Maximilian died.
I didn't say that. I came in and told you about what I saw with that incident at the pot.
Right. Well, I want to talk about something else that you saw, sir.
Okay?
Because you left this out on direct examination, but you actually had a conversation with Mr. Maximilian about that bullet catch trick, right?
I believe so. You'd have to be specific.
Well, you heard a few workers talking about the bullet catch trick.
Is it a day? Like I told you, I love speaking, so you'd have to nail it down.
Well, I'll be more specific, sir. You heard workers joking about the bullet catch, how they'd like to do it.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And then you heard Mr. Maximilian completely shut that down.
Yes, that's right.
He said that bullet catch trick is serious.
Yes, I heard that.
He said even though it's a blank, it's still dangerous.
Absolutely.
He said everyone needs to take this trick seriously or someone could get hurt.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
He said the bullet catch trick is dangerous, even for me.
Yeah, I believe I remember hearing that. That's right, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, any redirects?
No redirect, Your Honor. May this witness please be excused.
Any be excused?
Thank you, Yana.
Any witnesses on behalf of the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Mr. Nick Snack to the stand.
All right. Let's come up, take a stand, you may begin questioning when ready.
Yes.
Your Honor, the bailiff told us that you want me to walk this way. Is that it?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Could you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Sure. Hi, my name is Nick Snacky.
Where are you from, Mr. Nacky?
Well, as you can probably tell, Miss Jones, I'm from Iowa City. I'm actually from Brixton. It's a neighborhood in South London. It's the home of Adele, Ed Sheeran, and my two cheeky little rascals, Dave and Baxter.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a mentalist. Now, really all that means is that I convince moderately dumb to moderately smart people that I can read minds. The really smart people don't buy it, and the really dumb people don't need to be convinced. That's actually how I got a job at the Supreme Court Christmas party. The justices voted me best act 6-3.
Wow, congratulations, sir.
I don't really. Okay. Wow.
So how'd you get into mentalism here in Murata?
Well, you know, I figured convincing the Supreme Court, if I could do that, I could convince the rest of America. And so, you know, I sort of uprooted myself, moved across the pond, and set up shop here.
And do you know why you're here in court with us today?
Sure. I used to work for Legacy's Lampert Family Carnival. One of my colleagues, my friend really, Maximilian, he died while performing a trick. I'm just here to tell you what I know.
When did you start working for Legacy Family Carnival?
It's been a couple of years, hasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, because I started right when Queen Elizabeth was killed. I mean, when King Charles legitimately succeeded his mother to the throne. And I was there to see the bullet catch trick in 23, so a couple of years.
What's the bullet catch trick?
Magic trick. As far as I understand it, I could guess it's kind of a trick where the magician is shot at by their assistant, but it's not a real gun, so the magician kind of makes it look like they caught the bullet in midair.
I want to talk about if Mr. Maximilian understood the dangers of that trick. You said you knew him. What was your relationship like?
I'd like to think that we were friends. I mean, we didn't perform in the same tent or at the same time, but you know, we got to know each other. We would often kind of go out. The shooting range was his kind of favorite place to be, so we'd kind of go there and talk.
What'd you talk about at the shooting range?
Our professions. Mostly it was magic, guns, and magic and guns. I mean, really, we talked only once about, you know, kind of mixing together magic and guns. Max didn't seem really hot about that.
Did he ever tell you that he was concerned about using a gun for that bullet catch trick?
Well, not specifically, but I mean, we were talking about it, and you know, Max mentioned that his kind of general principle of the thing is don't point a gun at something you don't want dead. Seems sensible enough to me.
Let's talk about what might have happened when he agreed to let someone point a gun at him. Sir, where were you on the night of July 14th?
I was in my own tent. I don't work the last day of our carnival. And I've been working pretty hard, so I was practicing a couple of tricks.
When did you notice that something had gone wrong?
Well, you know, I heard a bang, and people started running past my tent. I didn't really know what was going on at first. I mean, my best guess was that, you know, Utah finally brought his family around for Thanksgiving dinner and he'd lost it. But, you know, as soon as I ran into the tent, I saw Max's assistant standing there holding the gun. Max himself was on the floor.
Was he still alive?
No. There was a lot of blood everywhere. Max was pretty unrecognizable, I would say.
Mr. Mackey, do you know why Mr. Maximilian agreed to do that bullet catch trick?
No, I don't know. Like I said, we didn't really discuss it at length, but yeah, he never actually told me why he agreed to do the trick.
All right, then I want to talk about why LFC might be being blamed for his death. Sir, did you ever talk with anyone before today's trial, besides me?
Sure, I mean, like you said, I talked with you, I talked with Mr. Jones, and I talked with Miss Trapp. Actually, I met her a couple of weeks after the incident.
You know who she was?
Not at first, no. I mean, this was at Max's funeral. I mean, in August, and I was there paying my respects, and Miss Trapp just walks up to me out of the blue. She says she's a state investigator of some kind.
What did she say to you?
It's a pretty specific question. She walked up to me and she asked me if I knew anything or had seen anything that would indicate that, Lampert Family Carnival was responsible for Max's death. And obviously I told her that I hadn't seen the trick myself.
How did she respond?
Not well. She kind of got on my face, glared at me, and then she said, Lampert is going down for this, with or without you. And I wasn't sure why she was quoting you too, but
Objection, Your Honor, to inadmissible character evidence.
Response from?
Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, Your Honor, they're using the demeanor that she's establishing with this conversation, that anger in that prior instance, for that specific instance of conduct to show action in conformity therewith, that she carried that anger through her investigation and is targeting Legacy Carnival because of that.
Response on those grounds, Your Honor?
You may.
We're not using this to show propensity with the character trait of anger. We're using it for bias, which is extremely probative in today's case, the bias of the state's lead investigator here, that she wanted to take Legacy Lampert down. It doesn't go to propensity. She had already started the investigation. It's contemporaneous with the timeline of today's case, and it goes to her bias.
Brief response, Your Honor.
It's also hearsay. So the court is going to sustain the objection on hearsay grounds.
Your Honor, if I may respond to the hearsay?
Okay.
Briefly, Ms. Thorne is our opposing party today. It's an opposing party statement and is admissible under Rule 801D.
Response to that?
That is our understanding, Your Honor. She is a party representative, but we would maintain that character evidence objection.
It's not quite there yet, so on character evidence overruled.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Mr. Naki, I'm just going to ask you to say that one more time for the members of the jury. What did Ms. Thorne, the state's investigator, say to you when you told her you didn't have any evidence against Ms. Lampert?
Sure. Well, she said, we're going to get Legacy or something like that, with or without you. I really couldn't be too bothered about the entire situation. I mean, she gave me a business card and then walked away. I kind of finished paying my respects to Max and left myself.
Thank you, Mr. Naki. No further questions, Your Honor.
Just for clarification, that witness, the investigator was Trapp or Thorne?
Thorne, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. All right, cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Go ahead.
Afternoon, sir.
Afternoon. You look very dapper today, Mr. Jones.
I appreciate it, sir. Let's talk a little bit about you, all right?
Love it.
Sir, you make a living out of lying to people, right?
I wouldn't say that's true.
Well, you would call yourself a fantastic liar, right?
In a very specific instant. I'm a mentalist, which means that I lie to people and say that I can read minds. Obviously, magic isn't real, so I don't really read their minds.
So that's a yes. You call yourself a fantastic liar.
Sure, I lie to people and say I can read their minds.
You call yourself a master of psychological manipulation.
Sure, and that's not really a brag. I do have a master's in psychology.
So that's a yes, right?
Sure.
So I want to talk about why that might be important for this case. Because you actually really want a specific outcome from this trial, isn't that true?
Not really.
You want Legacy Carnival to be found not liable, true?
I mean, sure. I mean, in my opinion, I don't know how they're liable, but my opinion doesn't matter.
I want to talk about why you might be saying that, because you actually still work for this company, right?
I do, yeah.
You think this entire lawsuit, well, it's just dragging their name through the mud.
Sure.
So you think this lawsuit, it's hurting you?
It has. I've lost one talk show, but I mean, again, I'm not too honest.
You've had to cancel performances.
Sure.
You've had to cancel talk show appearances, like you just said.
Right, one.
You said it's costing you to lose money, isn't that true?
Not that much, sir. Money was a little bit tight last year, but I'm doing fine now.
So that's a yes, it's costing you to lose some money.
Sure.
So that's why you decided to testify voluntarily today, right?
I wouldn't say that's why, sir. I mean, they asked me and I came in.
But you are testifying voluntarily on behalf of this carnival that you're working.
I am.
I'd only get into a little bit of the things that you said on direct examination. Sir, you mentioned, or excuse me, you actually didn't mention this, but you actually remember an event that happened on July 13th, right?
Yeah, I threw a party, a poker party for all the guys after work.
You remember being there for that party with Mr. Ashmore, true?
Yeah, I remember that he was there. I don't really remember much else.
Because you were drinking, right, sir?
Oh, I was drinking. The Scots make good whiskey.
But you do remember one specific conversation you had with Mr. Ashmore, right?
Sure. I mean, we were discussing the bullet catch trick. He said that he had bought, both blanks and real bullets.
We'll get to that, sir, but you heard him say, I just bought bullets for this trick, right?
Objection, Your Honor, to hearsay, the statements of Mr. Ashmore.
Response, Your Honor. Mr. Ashmore is the defendant's prop master in this case. So the defendant, or Mr. Ashmore, is an agent of the defendant under 801D2D. This is an opposing party statement.
Agent falls within the hearsay section 801D.
That's right, Your Honor.
Response.
Yes, Your Honor, we just need to hear a little bit more foundation as to how in order for a person to be an agent of a party, they need to be taking those actions on behalf of the party during employment in furtherance of something. We haven't heard that foundation that Mr. Ashmore, while he did work there, was taking these alleged actions as an agent of the defendant. We need to hear that foundation for this to be admitted under that section.
Response on those grounds, Your Honor.
Last one. Yes.
Your Honor, the witness just testified that the statement he heard from Mr. Ashmore was about him buying bullets for that bullet catch trick. That's enough foundation to establish that he was working in his role as a member of the defendant's company.
Further response?
Yes,
Your Honor, time has elapsed for the defense objections.
It's time. Court's going to sustain the objection.
Yes, Your Honor, motion to strike whatever came onto the record.
So stricken.
Yes, Your Honor.
Proceed.
Sir, you were there that day during that event, right?
Yeah, I was. I organized it.
And you don't remember exactly what had happened during that event because you were drinking, true?
Yeah.
Sir, you recounted for us a conversation you had with Mr. Maximilian at the shooting range, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like you told us, Mr. Maximilian never explained to you why he agreed to do that trick.
No.
Mr. Maximilian never told you whether this defendant threatened, right?
Threatened? I mean, no, he never said anything about being threatened.
Thank you, sir. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Any redirect?
Oh, no redirect, Your Honor. We just asked that Mr. Knapp to be allowed to step down.
Let's take a quick 10-minute break. Let's come back. 126.
Oh.
Timekeeper, so what happens if they run out of time for objections? That means they can't object anymore?
Yeah, that means that they can't object anymore and that they can't continue making the argument. And so the way the time works for objections is it just comes out of, so if the defense makes the objection, even when the plaintiff is talking, responding to the objection, that still comes out of their time.
Okay.
And so it goes from when they say objection to when you rule and say overruled or sustained.
So is it per witness?
It's per witness, so it's
Okay.
reset now. Defense can still make objections. It switches. Or I should say it's per set of witnesses. So since that was, the two, the same like attorney witness head to head, the time counted for those two witnesses added up for the objection she made. But it resets now that each side gets a new 3 minutes, 30 seconds.
Just get a few drinks out of this.
Sort of go, Your Honor.
That's right.
As is the defense, Your Honor.
I can call the next witness.
Your Honor, we call Tav Thorne.
Begin examination when ready.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Mr. Paramores.
Can you introduce yourself to the jury?
Of course. Good afternoon. My name is Tabitha Thorne, badge number 806.
What do you do for work, ma'am?
I am a special agent with the Morado Bureau of Investigations.
Could you tell us what the Morado Bureau of Investigations is?
Of course, it is a state agency that handles multi-jurisdictional cases all across the state.
Agent Thorne, what got you into law enforcement?
Well, my family is from El Salvador, and when I was young, we moved over here. My father started to work as a police officer, and I wanted to be just like him. So when I turned 18, I decided to join the academy.
Why is that?
Amparar los desamparados. It is just a phrase my father used to say to me. It means protect the helpless. I wanted to be just like him, to protect people.
All right, Agent. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about this case. Could you tell us how you were involved?
Sure. I conducted an undercover investigation into the Lampert family carnival. I was able to go undercover, and I know I don't look like your typical police officer, but that is exactly why I was chosen to be a part of the special unit that goes undercover for the FBI.
Why did you have to go undercover at the defendant's carnival?
Mr. Pettimores, going undercover always allows a police officer a little bit more leeway with the places that they can go into and access.
Agent, can you tell the jury what you found while you were undercover?
Sure, I found two things that were very concerning to me. The first was the training of the prop master, and the second was the gun that was used for the performance on July 14th of 2023.
All right, Agent, let's just take those one by one.
Of course.
Starting with that first concern you had, the prop master. Could you tell us who that is?
Yes, that was Angel Ashmore.
Was Miss Ashmore in charge of handling the gun used in that performance?
Yes, she was.
Ma'am, do you know if that prop master, Angel Ashmore, had any training to handle that firearm?
Well, Mr. Pettimores, that was where my concern came in. She said that she does not need any training, and that all she has to do is watch some 3-hour-long YouTube video, and that is all she needed. So I found this extremely concerning.
How long ago did she watch that YouTube video? Do you know?
I do. She says she watched it 4 or 5 years ago in 2019.
Ma'am, I want to make sure we're getting this clear for the jury. Other than a 3-hour-long YouTube video, did the prop master tell you she had any other training to handle a weapon?
No, and I also found no other evidence that she did.
All right, Agent, let's move on to that second concern that you had, the actual gun itself. What problem did you have with the gun?
Part of my mission was to go into the Lampert family carnival and find some financial documents. I was able to find an expense request for both the bullets and the gun for the actual performance.
You just mentioned expense request form. Do you see that binder right next to you there?
I do.
Ma'am, could you just flip to exhibit 3 in that binder? Let me know when you're there.
Of course. Would it be in the front, the back?
In the back, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm there.
Ma'am, can you tell us what that is?
Oh, of course. Well, this is an expense request form we were just talking about for the bullets and the gun.
Does it look the same as you last saw?
It does.
Your Honor, we offer exhibit 3.
No objections?
No objections, Your Honor.
So entered into evidence.
Ma'am, could you just explain to the jury what that exhibit is?
Of course. Well, like we were talking about, this form, it is for the carnival to choose to decide what price tag to set on a new item that they are purchasing. So, for example, Here you can see the price points, the options of the things that they would like to buy, and then the level of safety for each of the level priced options.
All right, ma'am, I see that there's 3 options for a bullet and guns for Mr. Maximilian's performance. Do you know which price point they selected?
I do. They chose the lowest price point. I was able to look at Ms. Lampert's affidavit before trial today, and that is what she mentions inside.
You said that they ended up picking the lowest price point. Could you just read out what the lowest price point says for ammunition?
Sure. Purchase blank ammo from Gun Club, most likely to receive a discount, but greatest chances of live ammunition being mixed in with the blank rounds.
All right, Agent Thorne, you can put that away now. Thank you. Ma'am, now I just want to address some of the things that we've heard throughout trial today, okay?
Okay,
Ma'am, do you remember when the defense got up here and made their opening statement?
I do. I was sitting at counsel table.
Do you remember when the defense attorney talked about what the defendant, Ms. Lampert, was going to say today?
Yes, they mentioned that Ms. Lampert would talk about the gun being loaded with Mr. Maximilian the night before the performance.
Ma'am, did you ever speak to the defendant, Ms. Lampert?
I did. I was able to sit in on one of her investigations or with one of her interviews for the investigation of this trial.
While Ms. Lampert was being interviewed, did she ever mention seeing Mr. Maximilian with a loaded firearm the night before the incident?
No, she didn't.
Ma'am, earlier you also told us you reviewed the defendant's deposition. Did she say anywhere in that deposition that she saw those things happen?
No, she didn't.
All right, Agent. Now I want to move on and talk about the actual day of the incident. Were you at the carnival that day?
I was. I was able to watch Mr. Maximilian's performance when he passed away.
Do you remember what happened?
I do. I was watching the performance starting. The assistant magician put the gun up and fired. And Mr. Maximilian fell to the ground. Only a blank round was supposed to go off, but he fell to the ground and he started bleeding from his head. They called an ambulance, but unfortunately, Mr. Paramours, it was too late.
Agent, did the FBI or state law enforcement decide to charge anyone with a crime in this case?
No, we did not. We decided that it would be better left for a civil court because we didn't find any of the evidence that Mr. Maximilian was being killed.
Ma'am, do you remember during opening statements when opposing counsel made some allegations about you?
I do.
Do you remember when they said that you were testifying today and representing Mr. Maximilian because you have a grudge against the defendant?
I do.
Is that true?
No, I was actually asked to be a part of the party representative for today's trial.
Well, Agent Thorne, why are you testifying today?
I am testifying because I want to amparar los desamparados. Protect the helpless, right? I couldn't protect Mr. Maximilian that night. But maybe you can make sure that something like this never happens again to anybody ever.
Thanks, Agent Thorne. Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. Cross-examination,
Yes, Your Honor.
go ahead.
Good afternoon, Ms. Thorne. Just a few questions for you today.
Of course, Counselor, I would be happy to answer anything.
Now, less than a minute ago, you just said that you were asked to be the party representative in this case.
Jess,
Do you remember saying that?
Sorry, I meant to let you finish, but Jess, I'm sorry, it was a turn of phrase. I meant to mean it more in a sense that because I was involved with the homicide investigation, the Lambert family carnival financial investigation, it just made more sense for me to be the party representative.
Ma'am, who was it that decided that it made more sense for you to be the party representative?
I did.
You decided that it would be okay for you to be the party representative.
That's right, sir. Like I mentioned, I have a lot of experience with the Lambert family carnival with all of the investigations I have done.
You're the person who reached out to the public administrator handling Max's case.
You are correct, Counselor.
So just to be perfectly clear, despite what you said on direct examination, you chose to be the party representative.
Yes, Counselor, I did.
Right, now I want to talk a little bit about your investigation. Because this wasn't the first investigation that you had into Lampert family carnivals, was it?
No, sir, it was not the first investigation into the Lampert family carnival. You are correct.
Because when you worked for the Butler Police Department, well, you investigated Lampert family carnival then as well.
That's right. Before I joined the MPI, I was with the Butler Police Department, and I started an investigation on the financials for the Lampert family carnival. You are correct, Counselor.
But ma'am, you didn't find anything wrong with Lampert family carnivals at that time, did you?
No, this was back in 2015, before the Lampert family moved around a little bit. I didn't find any evidence of financial wrongdoings, no.
But before, even after you found no evidence of financial wrongdoing, well, you still pursued an investigation into Lampert family carnivals, did you?
That's right, sir.
In fact, you were ordered to stop that investigation.
That's right. I stopped my investigations with the Butler County Police Department. When I moved to the NBI, that is when I started another investigation into the Lampert family carnival.
Well, let's be clear why you stopped that original investigation.
Okay,
It was because you were fired.
that's right, sir. I was let go of the Butler County office.
You were fired because you continued to investigate despite your superior's orders.
Objection, speculation, Your Honor.
May I
May I be heard?
respond?
Yes, you may be heard.
Your Honor, the question calls for the witness to speculate as to the mindset and reason that she was being fired. If the attorney rephrases the question to ask if she knows that's why she was being fired, or to her knowledge that's why she was fired. But to testify to the exact reasons, you'd have to speculate into someone else's mindset.
Your response?
Firstly, Your Honor, proper foundation has been laid. This witness has answered the question, said that she pursued this investigation and that after she was fired, and that's when she moved to the NBI. But further, this is cross-examination. If the witness disagrees or it's not within that witness's personal knowledge, they have every right to say that they simply don't know.
Objection's overruled at this time.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Ma'am, you were fired from the Butler Police Department because you investigated Lampert family carnivals despite your superior's orders.
That is correct. When you are a police officer, it is important to have a gut feeling. That is what keeps you alive through a lot of the undercover missions that we have to go to. At the time, I thought it was important that we continue to investigate Lee Lampert family carnival.
And after you moved to the NBI, well, your investigation into Lampert family carnivals, it didn't even stop there, did it?
For some time it did. There was a lot of cases that we had to look into, but I received an anonymous tip. And because of that tip, we started up another investigation into the Lampert family carnival. Yes,
You said your investigation at NBI stopped because there were other cases, but it stopped because your superiors at NBI, they told you to stop investigating. That's why it stopped, right?
that's right, Counselor. Like I said, I was assigned other cases that had a little bit more importance.
Now, you said that you were allowed to continue investigating due to an anonymous tip. Ma'am, can you tell the jury here today when you got that tip?
No, Counselor. Unfortunately, we receive so many tips at the agency that we don't actually go through them. We make sure to collect the ones we seem important and then we continue on.
You don't have any records that you can look to find out when this tip was?
No, sir, I don't.
Can you tell them whether the tip was a text message or a phone call or an email, anything like that?
No, Counselor. Like I mentioned, many tips, we don't have time to go through each one of them individually. So we have someone look at them and as an overall, and then we give them back to the force.
All right, I want to just move on back to
Of
your
course.
investigation. Now, due to that anonymous tip, you continued investigating Lampert family carnivals.
Yes, that is correct.
That's when you went undercover.
Yes, Counselor, that is when I went undercover.
And you broke your cover on July 14th. That true?
That is correct. Sorry, Counselor, yes, that is true. When Mr. Maximilian passed away, the gun was fired. There was a lot of chaos in the room. I was the only police officer at the scene, and I wanted to make sure that everyone was calm, collected, and that we had the investigation under control.
And so the police at the Butler County Police Department, well, they asked for your help.
Yes, you are correct.
they asked you to sit in on a few interviews.
Yes, they did.
And it was after you had been in those interviews. That was when you approached the representative from Max Estate to become the party representative here today.
Sort of, Counselor. Yes, we made sure to complete the entire investigation. I sat through the interviews, and then we decided that it was better to do a civil litigation case. So I became the party representative.
Became by asking the controller of Max's estate. Let's be clear.
Yes, Counselor, that is correct.
Now, finally, you talked on direct examination about that expense report. You still have it there in front of you?
Yes, I do. Let me take it up.
Now, ma'am, you were here for opening statements, correct?
I was here for opening statements, Counselor. I was right there at the council.
You were here when Mr. Jones talked about the potential of a real bullet being in that gun.
Yes, Counselor, I was. And given the description on the ammo that they bought, it seems highly likely.
Ma'am, would buying a better gun make it less likely that a real bullet was in that gun?
Objection, improper opinion.
All speculation, I think if they hypothetical response.
Your Honor, this based on the witness's rationally based perception, they can come to the conclusion that a better gun doesn't change the likelihood of what goes in that gun. Any reasonable person can come to that conclusion.
I have to disagree. It comes from an expert opinion, so objection is sustained.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, you talked about how they bought the low price for ammo, correct?
That is correct.
But that's not what it says on that paper there, is it?
No, and this paper explains that it is the midpoint that they bought. But like I mentioned, I was able to look at Ms. Lampert's report and the position, and she mentions that they buy the low-end price points for both the gun and the ammo being used for Mr. Maximilian's streak on July 14th.
But ma'am, you're aware that Lambert Family Carnivals, the first thing they did, they tried to buy new blanks.
Sure, they tried to purchase the blanks from the gun.
No, they tried to purchase new blanks online. That's what it says on there, isn't it?
Sure, Counselor, but that is not exactly correct. Like I
Because
mentioned.
those blanks online, they fell through, correct?
Counselor, like I mentioned, they bought the mid-price they priced the mid-price midpoint for those guns, but they did not be able to buy it. So instead, they decided to go with the local gun club.
Thank you. Ms.
Of
Thorpe.
course.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, any redirects?
Can I ask how much time I have for redirect?
For redirect examination, there's 24 seconds left.
Briefly, Rob.
Go ahead.
Are we going to need the expense form, Mr. Pettimore?
Yes, ma'am, you can just keep it out for me.
Okay, just making sure.
Ma'am, I just want to clarify what you just talked about with opposing counsel.
Sure.
Ma'am, what does it say on the expense form?
On the expense form, it says the mid price for the bullets,
What did the Lampert Family Carnival actually end up on?
the lowest price point.
Nothing further.
Any recross?
Seeing the lack of time, Your Honor, no.
Thank you very much.
Of course, let me put this back in here real quick. Of course. Okay. Yes, Your Honor. Have a great day.
Thank you. Any witnesses for behalf of the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Legacy Lampert to the stand.
Counsel, any question when ready?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Would you state your name for the court, please?
Legacy Lampert.
What do you do for a living, Miss Lampert?
I own and operate the Lampert Family Carnival, or LFC for short.
How did you become involved at LFC?
The LFC is a family business. My great-great-grandparents were immigrants and settled in Morado. After that, the Lampert family did move around a bit internationally, as you can see. But we did always keep that carnival in our business.
Now, what do you do as your company's owner?
I take on more of a supervisory. My staff are like my family, so they depend on me to make sure the carnival is both profitable and safe, while making sure that we have a quality experience for our customers.
So, Miss Lampert, why did you choose to testify here today?
I'm here to tell you what happened on July 14th in regards to the bullet catch and with Max.
Now, you just mentioned Max. How did you know the plaintiff, Mr. Max Maximilian?
We were looking for a replacement act from May 15th to July 15th of 2023. Someone had recommended him to me, and I did some research, and his acts were wonderful.
Well, what do you mean by wonderful?
He was just a really talented artist, and he was a professional in the business and made it really easy to create a contract. We had a few agreements in place.
What were those agreements?
So we were to purchase, maintain, and equip Max with props for his acts.
Well, did you give him those props?
Yes, we did, to the best of our ability.
Well, what do you mean by the best of your ability?
Well, we gave him everything that he needed. But some of his requests were a little outside of our price point that we thought of. We have other acts to consider as well. For instance, Max had requested a hand-bred baby tiger for one of his acts. First of all, white tigers are illegal to own in Morocco.
Objection, Your Honor, to relevance.
May I explain, Your Honor? Your Honor, it is the contention of the plaintiff that Miss Lampert did not spend enough money on Max's act, leading to issues of buying, say, the gun. This shows her mindset as to why certain purchases were made.
Response?
Yes, Your Honor, I don't understand how a purchase of a white tiger could relate to this witness's mindset. If she had a mindset, she can just tell the jury that.
I think she actually testified that the white tiger was actually purchased. I think that they were considering whether or not to purchase a white tiger, and at this point, those two, their defense theory, so the objection is overruled at this point.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. Please continue.
So again, firstly, it's illegal to own white tigers in Morocco. And secondly, it was upwards of 5 figures for one act. Instead, we went local and got him a white house cat instead.
Now,
He didn't complain as to it.
now, who's in charge of buying these props?
That would be Angel Ashman, our prop master and armor at the LFC.
Now, how would you describe Angel Ashmore as a prop master?
Angel Ashmore was competent. In a few years, he may one day be the best in the business.
Objection, lack of foundation, Your Honor.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Yes.
I believe that's just the witness's opinion on one of her employees.
May I respond, Your Honor? Your Honor, we believe the competency of the prop master is of the utmost of importance in this case. When Ms. Taft Thorne just testified, she said she did not have appropriate training to handle firearms. We haven't heard any foundation that this witness has the knowledge or experience to be able to comment on how properly trained or competent that prop master was.
Last response.
Yes, Your Honor. This is, after all, the owner of this company, has seen numerous prop masters beforehand and can testify to the ability of Angel Ashmore as a prop master.
That's a sustained objection.
Motion to strike, Your Honor.
So stricken, just a little bit more foundation, counsel.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, as a prop master, compared to, say, previous prop masters, how would you describe Angel Ashmore?
Angel Ashmore was competent. He was hired by my previous prop master and trained under that prop master for a year before actually becoming our prop master.
Your Honor, we would re-raise our objection. The witness elicited the same testimony, but didn't lay enough sufficient foundation.
Overruled.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, how would purchases go when using Angel?
Well, Angel would submit an expense report for the actual performer, or in this case, Max.
And how did you decide what kind of purchases would be made?
Well, I looked through the expense reports. There were 3 price points. I would choose either the medium one, if it depended on customer or staff safety, and the low point, wherever needed.
Now, in the case of that gun safety report we saw earlier, what do you have to say about that?
Well, we're looking at the gun safety report. I looked through and considered the potential options and discussed them with Angel, our prop master. During that is when we decided which bullets and which blanks to buy, and the gun as well.
I actually want to talk more about that gun. When exactly was that purchased?
It was purchased July 3rd, 2023, and it was given to both Max and his assistant to practice. At the end of the day, they had final say whether or not they wanted to use that gun or not.
Well, in that case, I want to talk about who had access to it. Do you know who had access?
Yes, it would have been Angel, the prop master, Max's assistant, Gabby. And I did see Max use that gun a few times outside of practice.
Objection, Your Honor, is to a lack of foundation. How this witness knows who all had access to the firearm.
May I respond, Your Honor?
You may briefly.
They're the owner of this company. They can testify to the information they know about this gun.
Well, got an issue there. Unless this witness can specifically state that I purchased this gun and saw it transferred to this person, to that person, this witness can personally testify that we have some foundational issues. So objection is sustained.
Yes, Your Honor.
Motion to strike, Your Honor.
So stricken.
Now, do you know by any chance who had access to the keys to this gun?
Yes, so I discussed with Angel Ashmore, our prop master, and Angel was the actual person who purchased that gun. After that, the actual trick itself included both Gabby, who received received that key from Angel, as well as Max. The
Objection,
actual-
hearsay. As to the statements of Angel Ashmore, who all had keys?
No, if that's an actual statement. Court doesn't interpret the testimony to be a statement. So your state objections will be made this time.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, when exactly did you see Max with that gun?
It would have had to been late, July 13th. That was the night before our final performance.
Well, what happened that night?
I was in my trailer. It was late that night, so I was trying to get some sleep. When I heard a gunshot outside of my right side window.
You heard a gunshot?
Yes. Understand, I grew up in the business. I'm used to the crew sometimes fooling around late at night. But when I looked out the window, I actually saw two people I noticed. It was Angel Ashmore, our prop master, and Max.
Now, we heard from Utah Udden earlier today about seeing Angel Ashmore with a gun. Was that on the same day?
From what I heard, I believe so. From what he said, it was a party of some sort. I just saw those two and a few other people around.
So what exactly were Max and Angel doing together?
Well, what I saw was Angel actually firing the gun a few times at a few beer bottles or cans and drinking beer as well. And then they passed that actual gun over to Max. And she spent a long time looking at it.
Did Max end up using that gun?
She did. After a second, she took a few shots as well.
Now, did Max or Angel ever talk to you about this?
No. Again, those two would be the people I would go to if I did have any concerns. So I didn't.
Now, I want to talk about something we heard earlier today about Miss Thorne and that financial investigation. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I just find it a little odd. After not only one, but two failed financial investigations against me, she's representing someone she doesn't know against my company. I mean, maybe she has a grudge against me or something, but I frankly don't know her.
Objection, speculation that Agent Thorne has a grudge against the defendant.
She also testified that she doesn't know at the very end. So at this time, objection.
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, what did you think about Miss Thorne?
Again, frankly, I'm not sure what she wants of me.
Now, how exactly do you know if Max had that gun?
Well, at the end of the day, I sat down with Max to discuss his bullet catch trick. We walked through the dangers of the trick and what he needed in terms of safety and security to perform the trick.
Objection to non-responsive.
I could rephrase my question, Your Honor.
Please do so.
Now, did you ever talk to Max about the safety of this trick?
Yes, again, during that final time. We were discussing whether or not to perform this trick, and I gave him all the equipment he needed to do so. He had done the trick in the past, so I relied on his understanding of the trick. I believed in his ability to know whether or not he wanted to do the trick. And at the end of the day, he never once came to me with any issues with that.
No further questions, Your Honor. I've asked the witness.
All right, cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Pepsi.
Just whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Ms. Lambert.
Good afternoon.
Ma'am, you hired Mr. Maximilian to perform for your carnival last summer, right?
Yes, around May.
You signed a contract with him.
Yes, I contracted him out as an independent contractor. Him and his assistant, Gabby Gray.
Ms. Lambert, I want to walk through that contract together. You see that binder right there?
Yes, I do.
Can you flip to Exhibit 2 for me?
Is it the contract?
That's right, ma'am. Ma'am, that's that contract that you had with Max, right?
Yes, it appears to be so.
Your Honor, just to note for the record, this exhibit is pre-admitted. Ma'am, let's talk about what you promised for Mr. Maximilian within his contract, all right?
Sure.
It says that you promised Max a safe working environment to the extent that you can, right?
Yes, that's true. And we followed through wherever we could.
Let's
We
talk.
had conversations with both Max and Gabby regarding the tricks they were performing. And we came to agreement as to which ones they would.
Now, let's see if you actually followed through on that promise. You told Mr. Maximilian that you would give him new prompts, right?
Yes, I did. I told him that when we originally signed the contract.
You told Mr. Maximilian that you would get him a brand new firearm, right?
Again, yes,
Ma'am, you lied to him.
in terms of,
Did you get him a new firearm?
we purchased a firearm, yes, for his act.
Was it new?
Brand new, no.
It was used, right, ma'am?
Yes, from a local gun club. We had purchased the gun through Angel.
Ma'am, that gun that killed Mr. Maximilian was a used gun, right?
It was from that used gun club, yes.
Like you told us, your prop master, that's someone named Angel Ashmore, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Miss Ashmore, you hired her to be the prop master.
Yes, I did.
She had no experience before you hired her.
That's not entirely correct. She spent a year interning with our prior prop master before she was allowed to join the Lampard family carnival.
Sir, excuse me, ma'am, before you hired her as an intern, she had no experience as a prop master, isn't that true?
That's 100% correct.
Ma'am, you called Angel Ashmore the best in the business, right?
Yes, I have.
Ma'am, when you say that Angel Ashmore's the best prop master in the business, that's a lot, isn't it?
It is some tomfoolery. It's some covery, I'm sorry. She will be one day. She's very competent right now, and with all the experience she has, I think she is.
Let's break that down. When you told Mr. Maximilian that that prop master handling his gun was the best in the business, you knowingly lied to him, right?
I did at the time.
Ma'am, you met with Mr. Maximilian in June of last year to discuss adding the bullet catch trick to his act, right?
That's correct. I spoke about it with him and discussed it.
You told him that he needed to add that trick because his act needed a bigger spectacle. That's what you told him, right?
That's true. We were discussing what we could do for that final performance.
Ma'am, that was also a lie, right?
No, it wasn't.
Ma'am, the real reason you wanted him to add that bullet catch trick, let me get this right, is because you wanted to leverage to negotiate a new lease?
I'm not exactly sure what you mean. We had discussed it because the fairground owners did appreciate Max and his act, and he liked the bullet catch trick, so we were talking about using it.
That's why you wanted him to put it in his performance, right, ma'am?
I suppose it was a big spectacle at the end to close out Fairground.
Ma'am, you remember taking a deposition in this case, right?
Yes, that's true.
We asked you some questions, didn't we?
Yes,
You
that's
remember,
correct.
remember just like today, you swore your right hand and you promised to tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
Did you?
In terms of the deposition?
That's right, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about that. Because during that deposition, you remember when you told us that you personally ensured that your company took all the measures needed to make that bullet catch trick safe?
Yes, I do remember doing that.
Ma'am, that statement, that's exactly what you told us. Personally, you did that.
Yes,
Ma'am, the truth is you put Angel Ashmore in charge of that, right?
in terms of making sure the props were safe.
That's right, ma'am.
In terms of the props themselves, yes. But I sat down with Max to make sure I knew all the safety precautions, everything that he needed, everything that he wanted to do in order to make this trick happen.
Ma'am, you didn't personally watch Miss Ashmore take care of that gun, did you?
No, sir. Again, I relied on Ashmore to help me with this type of thing.
You put Miss Ashmore in charge of loading blanks.
Yes, I did.
You didn't personally watch Miss Ashmore load blanks into that gun.
It would be highly impractical for me to watch my prop master do everything for every act. So no,
So that's a no, ma'am. You did not personally ensure that she loaded the correct ammunition into that gun, right?
exactly. Again, this is between Angel as well as Max. Max was using the gun during his act, and it was his responsibility.
All right, ma'am, I want to talk a little bit more about Exhibit 3. You remember when you talked about that in direct examination?
Which, yes, the expense request form,
Yeah, can you flip back to that, please?
of course.
And that expense request form, that's what you gave to Mr. Maximilian, right?
This is actually what we discussed with Angel Ashman. Angel was the one who filled this one out.
Sir, excuse me, ma'am, it's your testimony you didn't show that to Mr. Maximilian?
No, I'm saying Angel helped create this with Mr. Maximilian.
So Mr. Maximilian saw that request form.
Yes, the original one, yes.
Ma'am, you can see where you circled down there. You said that you're gonna buy the medium price point ammunition, right?
That's correct. I did.
That's what Mr. Maximilian saw, right?
That's true. He
Ma'am.
saw that.
Ma'am, can you tell us where you bought the ammunition that was loaded into that firearm that killed him?
Yes. So we bought that at the local gun club because beforehand we had purchased the blanks from an online retailer, but they weren't going to arrive in time. So instead, we bought the actual ammunition and blanks from a local gun club.
Ma'am, that's the lowest price point on that, isn't it?
Yes, again, we were in an emergency and the blanks were not going to arrive in time.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Correct.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Now, Ms. Lampert, I just want to clarify something we just heard about bullets and blanks. Now, were the bullets inside, well, there were the blanks inside the gun blanks?
Yes, they were.
Well, how do you know
Construction
that?
lack of foundation.
Also begging to use this time to stay.
Yes, Your Honor.
I'll also note that that's time for the plaintiff's objections.
Now, how do you know that the safety of the gun as pertains to bullets and blanks was followed through?
Well, Angel Ashmore, the prop master, had spent copious amounts of time making sure and going through those blanks and bullets, making sure that they were separate. That was because we had to buy from that low price point option. Angel wanted to make 100% sure that none of them had been mixed together.
Did you confirm this with Angel?
Yes, I discussed this all with Angel.
And do you know if Max knew that?
I suppose he would. Angel and Max were in communication about this.
No further questions, Your Honor. I pass the witness.
Thank you very much. Any recross?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Please sit down. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it. Just gonna finish up our ballots and talk amongst ourselves.